Ada was a poor girl from a poor family. Her father was late, and her mother had been struggling day and night to take care of her and her younger siblings. Life was very hard for them. They were so poor to the extent that they did not attend school like other children in the village. Every day, Ada's mother would cry and pray to God, saying, "Please, God, send us a helper from anywhere." She was tired and heartbroken from all the sufferings. Not quite long, Ada started receiving suitors, but her suitors were also poor. Some of them were farmers, others were laborers. Ada loved some of them because they were kind and caring. But her mother said to her, "Over my dead body, will you marry a poor man? You need to marry a rich man who will save us from poverty." Ada would look at her mother and said, "Mama, money is not everything. What I need is love and nothing else. If there is love, money will come at the right time." Her mother pointed at her and said, "It must be a rich man who will save us from poverty or nothing." Then she walked away angry and disappointed. One day, a young man called Dennis came to their house. He was rich and had everything a man was supposed to have. He also lived in the city. Dennis came to ask for Ada's hand in marriage, but Ada rejected him. She told him politely that she was not interested. Dennis did not give up. He came back again. This time, he sat down with Ada's mother and made a promise. "If you allow your daughter to marry me, I will send your other children to any school of their choice. I will build you a house, and I will make sure you and your family never lack anything." Ada's mother looked at him and smiled for the first time in a long while. She gave him her word and said, "If you can truly do all these things you have promised, then convincing Ada to marry you will not be a problem. Leave that one for me." That night, Ada's mother called her into her bedroom and said to her, "Ada, please allow Dennis to marry you so he can free us from poverty and send your siblings to school, just like he promised me today." Ada looked at her mother and said, "Mama, but I don't like him. I don't have any feelings for him. Besides, we don't know him too well." Her mother replied, "When you marry him, you will have feelings for him and we will get to know him." Ada shook her head and said, "No, Mama, I can't go for a man I don't love." Immediately, her mother got angry and shouted, "What is your problem, Ada? You must marry him or else you will never be my daughter again." Ada was silent for a while. Then with a heavy heart she said, "Okay, I have accepted. I will marry him." Her mother smiled and said, "Better for you. Get ready because I will inform him to come and pay your bride price as soon as possible." After some days, Ada and Dennis got married. Together they moved to the city. Soon they were blessed with a baby girl named Ella. But as the time went on, Ada began to see her husband's true colors. She found out that Dennis was involved in fraud. That was how he got his money. Ada was shocked and felt disappointed. She never wanted to be part of anything illegal. It didn't stop there. Dennis also started maltreating her in their marriage. As her husband, he never showed her love or affection. Whenever he wanted to sleep with her, he didn't care about her feelings. He would come to her without any romance or respect, and he would have sex with her anywhere, even in the places like the kitchen. Ada felt used and unloved. Whenever she tried to talk to him about it or complain, Dennis would shout at her and sometimes even beat her. He would say things like, "You are a poor girl. Your mother gave you to me in exchange for what I am doing for your family." Those words hurt Ada deeply. She remembered how her mother had forced her to marry him, hoping he would save them from poverty. But now she was living in pain, not peace. Dennis continued to be abusive towards Ada. He never treated her like a wife or an equal. He saw her as something he owned, not someone he loved. Whenever they were together as husband and wife, he was violent. He would force himself on her, hit her and push her into painful positions, even tie her legs on the wall without caring about how it hurt her. There was no kindness, no connection, no love, only control and pain. Ada would cry and scream, but the house stayed silent. No one heard her, no one came to help. Only their little daughter Ella could hear her. She would sit in her bedroom crying softly and saying, "Daddy is beating mommy again, and there is nothing I can do." Afterwards, Ada's body would be covered with bruises on her arms, her back, and even her private parts. She was really in pain. Ada sat on the edge of her bed. The room was quiet but heavy. Tears rolled down her cheeks again as she whispered to herself, "What kind of marriage is this? No love, no affection. Everything is by force. Even having sex feels like a punishment to me." She wrapped her arms around herself, feeling cold though the fan wasn't on. Her mind went back to the early days, how she told her mother again and again, "Mama, I don't love this man." But her mother never listened. She had only one reply: "Love will come later. He is rich, he will take care of us." Now, Ada was living the reality of that decision. A beautiful house, yes, expensive clothes, but her heart was empty. Every day felt like she was in prison, smiling in public but crying in secret. Suddenly, she stood up, wiped her tears, and picked up her phone. With shaking hands, she dialed her mother's number. The phone rang twice before her mother answered. "Ada, how are you?" Without greeting, Ada burst out, "Mama, I am tired. I am tired of this marriage. There is no love, no peace of mind. I have tried to pretend to be a good wife, but I can't do it anymore. I am not happy." There was silence for a second. Then her mother's voice became cold and sharp. "See, Ada, you must remain in that marriage as long as I say so. If you come out, who will feed me? Who will pay your siblings' school fees? Do you want that man to take back the house he built for me? Don't be foolish. Just stay there. He is your husband. He can do whatever he wants with you. Don't ever think of coming back to my house." And with that, Ada ended the call. Ada stared at the phone screen. The silence in the room grew louder. Her own mother had chosen wealth and pride over her happiness. Her hands dropped to her side. Ada realized she was truly on her own. One quiet afternoon, Ada was sitting on the couch, lost in her thoughts, when her little daughter Ella slowly walked up to her. She looked tired and in pain. Ada noticed her limping and quickly stood up. "Ella, what is wrong?" she asked with concern. "Mommy, my legs and private parts hurt me," Ella said softly, holding her small legs, "and I don't know what to do." Ada bent down quickly and touched her legs. "Where did you hit it? Did you fall down while playing?" Ella shook her head slowly, then with tears falling from her eyes, she whispered, "It is Daddy that hurt me." Ada froze. "What?" she asked, her voice shaking. "What do you mean your daddy hurt you?" Ella looked down, then said, "He did it 3 times, and he told me not to tell you. But the pain is too much now. Mommy, I have tried to keep quiet like he said, but I can't anymore. Please, Mommy, do you have any drugs? I can't even walk well." Ada's heart dropped. Her hands started shaking. "You mean your father did this to you?" she asked again, hoping she had wrong. Ella nodded her head slowly. "Yes, Mommy. He always comes to my room in the afternoon when you are not around. He says he wants to play with me. That is when he holds my leg and private part." Ada stepped back, her chest rising and falling fast. Her eyes were wide in shock. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. She heard Ella's close, her voice cracking. My God, what has this man done? Ada hugged her daughter tightly, fighting back the scream building in her throat. This was no longer just about a loveless marriage. It was now about protecting her child. And she knew this time silence was not an option. Ada burst into tears, her whole body shaking. She cried loudly. What type of man is this? What kind of life is this? Oh God, what should I do now? Should I kill this man right now? What kind of father would do this to his own child? She looked up the ceiling, tears rolling down her face. God, please help me. Help me out of this mess. Without wasting another second, she stood up quickly and told Ella, stay here, don't move. Then she stomped out of the living room, her heart pounding. She marched straight into the bedroom, and there he was, her husband Dennis, sitting at the edge of the bed, busy on his laptop. He was deep in his usual shade business, tracking people online, smiling to himself like nothing was wrong in the world. Ada didn't wait. Dennis, she shouted with fire in her voice. What have you just done? What have you done to your own daughter, your own flesh and blood? Dennis looked up confused, pretending not to understand. What are you talking about? He asked. Ada moved closer, shaking with anger. Don't play dumb with me. What have you been doing to Ella behind my back? She told me everything. Everything. He sat still, his face slowly changing. But Ada didn't stop. I come into this house. You treat me like a slave. Rape me every day. And now you have turned to your own child. Are you even human? Dennis? The room went silent for a moment. Ada stood there breathing hard, staring at the man she once called her husband. Her eyes is full of pain, betrayal and rage. I will expose you, Dennis. I will tell the whole world who you really are. Ada shouted angrily. Dennis stood up just as angry and said, remember I am rich. If you expose me, I will use my money to fix everything for myself. Then I will chase you out of this house, withdraw your siblings from school, and collect everything I have given to your poor, wretched mother. Ada covered her mouth in shock. She couldn't believe what Dennis had just said. Shamefully, with tears in her eyes, she turned around and went back to the sitting room. Ada sat down in the sitting room and began to cry so bitterly. She cried and cried, pouring out all the pain in her heart, until no more tears could come out. Her body shook with every sob, and her chest felt heavy with sadness. Her little daughter Ella quietly walked up to her. She looked at her mother with worried eyes, then gently started wiping her tears. Mommy, don't cry, Ella said softly. Everything will be fine. Ada looked at her daughter and her heart broke even more. She pulled her close and hugged her tightly, wishing she could protect her from everything. After that day, Ada and her daughter continued to live in fear. Every day in the house felt like walking on eggshells. Ada did everything she could to protect little Ella from her evil husband, Dennis. She made sure Ella stayed out of his way and always tried to smile, even when her heart was breaking. Sometimes, Ada would call her mother to tell her about the pain and problems she was facing in her marriage. But her mother would always say, just keep managing, my daughter. Marriage is like that. Besides, I don't want to be a poor woman again. Each time Ada heard those words, it broke her heart even more. She would sit alone, crying silently, feeling completely alone. Many times, she wished she had no mother at all, that she was an orphan, because it hurt her so much to know that her own mother cared more about money than her happiness. Ada felt trapped, and the whole thing that gave her strength was the small arms of her little daughter, hugging her tightly and telling her, "Mommy, please don't cry." One day, Ada's younger sister, Esther, came back from school to spend the holidays with them. Ada and her daughter Ella welcomed her warmly, smiling and hugging her tightly. It felt good to have family around again. At first, everything seemed normal in the house, but after some time, Esther began to hear her sister crying every midnight. The cries came from Ada and her husband's bedroom. Every night, the sound of Ada weeping quietly would fill the house, and Esther started to wonder why her sisters cried so much in the middle of the night. What confused her even more was how in the morning, Ada would act like everything was fine. She would smile, serve breakfast, and pretend as if nothing had happened the night before. But one night, the crying became too loud and painful to ignore. Esther couldn't bear it anymore. Her heart was racing, and without thinking twice, she rushed to the bedroom and forcefully pushed the door open. To her greatest shock, she saw her sister's leg tied with a rope and hung to the wall. Her husband Dennis was seriously having sex with her, harder and harder without any mercy. Esther screamed loudly. Dennis suddenly jumped up from Ada and grabbed Esther. Without saying anything, he started raping her. Esther screamed and tried to protect herself, but Dennis was too strong. Ada stayed tied on the rope, screamed even louder. "Stop it! Leave her alone! Help us!" she cried, struggling hard against the ropes. Tears were falling down her face as she watched helplessly. Outside the room, little Ella stood at the door. She saw everything but didn't move. She was frozen with fear. Her small hands covered her mouth. Her tears rolled down her cheeks. She wanted to help, but she didn't know how. All she could do was stand there crying and crying. Dennis kept forcing himself until he got tired. Finally, he stopped, breathing heavily. Esther lay on the floor, hot and crying softly. Ada was still tied to the bed, shouting and sobbing. Ella stood by the door, still crying, her body shaking. The room was filled with silence, broken only by the sound of their cries. Esther went and untied her sister, who was still crying uncontrollably. Her hands were shaking, her face soaked with tears. Through sobs, Esther said, "Your monster husband, he raped me right in front of you. What kind of man is he?" Ada's eyes were full of pain and anger. Her lip was bleeding, and there were bruises on her face and arms. Still crying, she said, "It's our mother's fault. You see the way he abused me all the time? And to make matters worse," she paused and looked down as if ashamed. Esther knelt beside her. "Tell me," she whispered. Ada's voice was low, but the words were heavy. "He sleeps with his own daughter, his own flesh and blood." Esther gasped loudly. "What?" Ada nodded. "All because of our mother's selfish desires. She forced me into this marriage. She didn't care what I wanted. She only cared about his money." Esther covered her mouth in shock. "Mama knew?" "She knew everything," Ada cried. "And she still told me to stay and endure. She said it was normal." "Normal? How is this normal, Esther?" There was a painful silence. Then suddenly Ada stood up. Her eyes were dark and filled with rage. Without saying a word, she walked straight into the kitchen. "Where are you going?" Esther called after her, panic rising in her voice. Ada didn't answer. She opened the drawer and pulled out a sharp kitchen knife. Her hand was shaking, but her steps were firm. Esther ran after her. "Ada, please, don't do this." Don't harm him. There are so many ways to settle this. But Ada was not listening. She walked straight to the sitting room where Dennis was resting. The same man who had just forced her, humiliated her, and ruined her peace. He was lying on the couch, snoring loudly. A bottle of alcohol was on the floor beside him. His shirt was half open. His mouth was slightly open like a pig sleeping after eating too much. Ada stood at the door, gripping the knife tightly. "I want to kill him," she whispered. Esther stood behind her crying. "Please, Ada, don't let him turn you into a murderer. He is not worth it. Think of your daughter, please." Ada's hands trembled. She took a step into the room. Her breathing was heavy. Her eyes were fixed on Dennis' cheek. She raised the knife. "Do it," a voice in her hand whispered. "He deserves it." But then she heard another voice, a softer one. "Mommy." It was her daughter standing in the hallway, rubbing her eyes. Ada froze. Her daughter was watching her, confused, innocent, scared. "Mommy, what are you doing?" the little girl asked. The knife slipped from Ada's hand and fell to the ground with a loud clink. She broke down, fell to her knees, and crying harder than ever before. The pain, the shame, the anger, all pouring out. Esther rushed in and held her tightly. "It's okay," she whispered. "You are not alone."